The great thing about government is that there's zero accountability on so many levels. Things that don't work at all, like the post office, get to stay open and continue to be terrible because there's just no repercussions. And people who are terrible at their jobs continue to work because there is no accountability. Enter John Kerry, who is here to save us from climate change as Joe Biden's new climate envoy. Now, climate change is almost certainly an issue. How big of an issue is debatable. But what frustrates millions of people who are not climate deniers is how AOC and the left respond to it and try to use it to massively grow government and get more power. The Green New Deal is a perfect example of the far left exploiting climate change to try and implement collectivist left-wing policy. Today, in his daily executive order sign-a-thon, President Biden added a few more orders to prioritize climate change essentially across all of government. Biden is also halting all new gas and oil leases on public lands and will review current permits as well. But trying to calm fears, he made this claim regarding fracking. Take a listen.
Let me be clear, and I know this always comes up. We're not going to ban fracking.
All right. As to whether or not he's telling the truth on this, that's anyone's guess. It wasn't too long ago that Joe Biden said this.
I want you to look in my eyes. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel.
Guarantee. The president also said his climate policy would soon be enhanced. We're going to have to see what that means later on this year. Biden also pushed for a $2 trillion climate plan. You can call it the light Green New Deal, if you will. And just toss that $2 trillion, by the way, on top of our other $26 trillion in debt, along with all the rest of the COVID relief plans. At this point, our debt is no longer even a real thing in Washington. I guess we should just pretend that it doesn't even exist. As far as potential tax increases to pay for our green new paradise go, yesterday, Senator Rick Scott asked Biden's nominee for Commerce Secretary about tax hikes.
I, as governor, am deeply in touch with how much increasing bills affect the average American family. Having said that, we do need to meet the climate change challenge, and we need funds for improved infrastructure, better roads, safer bridges.
So, yeah, basically, we're going to have to raise taxes on the middle class to cover a lot of this. By the way, that's the governor of the least business-friendly state in the country, ranked in the year 2019, and she wants to be Commerce Secretary. Some of the decisions made by this administration are hilarious. But back to John Kerry for a second. Kerry made a grand appearance at today's press briefing, and just seconds after applauding Biden for rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, he basically admitted that the agreement is useless. Take a listen.
Paris alone is not enough. Not when almost 90% of all of the planet's emissions, global emissions, come from outside of U.S. borders. We could go to zero tomorrow, and the problem isn't solved.
There you have it. The Paris Accord is actually pointless, and that's a liberal John Kerry telling you that. All right, let's take a closer look at the world's worst polluters, though. China does about 28% of the polluting. The United States in second place at 15%, India at 7%, Russia at 5%, Japan at 3%. Those are the top 5. The rest of the world handles the other 42% of the pollution. The Paris Accord literally incentivized China and India a combined 35% of the problem to pollute more until 2030. It really did that. Set the mark high because it's the 2030 output that they're going to have to start reducing from. Yes, the Paris Accord is really that dumb. After he was done speaking, a reporter asked John Kerry exactly how he plans to get two of the biggest offenders on board with the administration's plan to curb emissions globally. We're talking, of course, about China and India. How do you get them on a more aggressive plan? John Kerry has no clue how to do this and admitted it with this total non-answer. Take a listen.
How do you plan to try to bring both China and India to the table on this issue?
Climate is a critical standalone issue that we have to deal on in the sense that China is 30% of the emissions of the world. We're about 15% of the emissions of the world. You add the EU to that, and you've got 3 entities that are more than 55% or so. So it's urgent that we find a way to compartmentalize, to move forward, and we'll wait and see.
We're going to wait and see. I thought this all had to be figured out immediately. It's existential. It's a crisis. It's right now. Kerry said just minutes earlier in that news conference that it was an existential crisis. We have no time to waste. We'll wait and see. Zero plan. We'll wait and see. Literally, not one speck of an answer to that question there. It was an amazing moment. It was incredible to watch live. And to be honest, that is the most important question, China and India on all this, because the U.S. emissions are going down. The truth is that these people have no plan on this thing. They just want power, and they want to fatten up this government with their plan. Really making change, other than just, trying to say nice things, they have no clue. Just remember, John Kerry negotiated the Iran nuclear deal, arguably the most embarrassing document this nation ever signed. It released billions of dollars to the Iranian regime, which then they used to finance terrorism all throughout the region, and barely made a dent in Iran's ability to develop a nuclear weapon. There's John. Kerry is the one who famously said this about dealing with the Middle East as well.
There will be no separate peace between Israel and the Arab world. I want to make that very clear to all of you. I've heard several prominent politicians in Israel sometimes saying, well, the Arab world's in a different place now. We just have to reach out to them and we can work some things with the Arab world and we'll deal with the Palestinians. No, 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 and no.
Four no's, and he was completely wrong. A few months ago, the Trump administration proved just how incredibly wrong Kerry was on all of the Middle East by doing just that. The guy was the Secretary of State. He had no clue. The U.S. went around the Palestinians, and they signed all those deals with the Arab countries. It worked like a charm. No, 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 no. Imagine being in politics as long as John Kerry and having absolutely no idea what you're doing, having absolutely no good instincts. And yet you keep getting jobs. Welcome to government. Sadly, President Biden doesn't fare much better. We all remember former Defense Secretary Robert Gates saying that Biden has been wrong on every major foreign policy decision he has been faced with. You can fact-check Gates' statement there. He's right. But because it's Washington, because it's government, Biden and John Kerry, they still get to work. And they're going to save us from climate change now. These two. The U.S. Post Office of Washington politics. Maybe we need to find a FedEx.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than